Hey everyone, Ben here and welcome back to the TCR virtual eSports competition where we are in round 2 at the Red Bull Ring. If you missed round 1 at Laguna Seca, check out the link in the top right hand corner of the screen. We made our way through into round 2. We've qualified in 9th here on the grid, which is the minimum position we'll need to finish in if we're going to qualify from this heat. 18 cars on the grid, we have to finish in the top 50% of drivers. So 5 red lights about to come on. We are waiting to get underway here and hoping for a clean passage through T1. Here come the lights then. We're going to try and stick to the outside of the corner. It's going to be a little bit dangerous. If cars run a little bit too hot on the inside, we might get a bit of contact, but we will wait and see if it's the right strategy. There is quite a good runoff area here as we barrel our way with 17 other TCR cars into T1. Here we go then, around the corner, up onto the outside. We managed to avoid any contact. Another Honda Civic up ahead has actually ran wide there. He's going to have a poor compromised exit. We're going to go for it. We're going to be brave down the outside here, try and use our momentum to get past. We just about stick to the track. We don't get squeezed off. We're 3 wide coming into the crucial hairpin at the top of the hill here. Going to try and again just stick to the outside. We get a big tag from the right hand side, but we managed to keep the car pointing in the right direction. And I think we're up 1 position on where we started in this race as we come down the back straight. Downhill braking zone here, very tricky to get the car slowed down. You've got to compensate for the fact that you're going downhill, get the car swung around into the right hander, and we managed to maintain position against the blue and yellow Civic behind us, as we are now just hoping to have a clean run through the rest of this first lap. But there's lots of jostling going on up ahead. You can see cars just about making it through the left hander there, so we have to be vigilant. Any accident here, we're running so close to the other cars, we'd have to react pretty quickly in order to get out the way, and there's really hard defending going on up ahead as one car got out onto the gravel there, and we're coming down into the final couple of corners of the lap. Not really corners you want to go side by side through, as we see a switchback move up ahead there. Classic overtake and then re-overtake from the 2 cars up ahead as they're trading positions. We follow them through to end lap 1, and we've managed to survive. Not only have we survived, but we've actually given ourselves a little bit of a buffer on the position we need in order to come home in the qualification spaces. Side by side up ahead, and the contact. There is big contact between the 2. That sends one car off to the left hand side runoff. He's rejoined alongside us, but actually we will make our way past. So we have gained another spot, and we've got a brilliant run on the car up ahead as well, as we're going to come into the big tight hairpin at the top of the hill once again, but we're not close enough. We very nearly run into the back of the car up ahead under braking, but thankfully we make it through without having further contact. But this is all good stuff early in this race. I mean, we really are right on the cusp of sort of raw pace that it's going to require to get through into the next round of this competition, but we've managed to get a couple of places higher than we need, which will hopefully give us a bit of a buffer. And if you look in our rear view mirror, there is all sorts of fighting going on behind, so perhaps our best chance in this race is not only to make up a further position as we're closing in on the car up ahead, but also if the cars behind can get into a little bit of fighting, a bit of scrapping with each other, they will slow themselves down as we get a big slide on through the left-hander and just about keep it pointing in the right direction and keep forward momentum towards the end of this second lap. And it does look as if we're able to keep pace at this stage with the Audi up ahead. Maybe we will have a further opportunity here to gain another place in this race as we come through the second to last corner, then into the last corner, onto the start finish straight, and we've got a much better run than him through that corner. It looks like we're going to be closing and then all the way alongside him coming into T1. This is not an ideal overtaking spot. Hopefully he doesn't drive into us as the car on the last lap did, but he hasn't. There was a little bit of contact on the exit, but he's now done a switchback move on us once again. He's alongside us to the right hand side. He's got a tyre just inside our rear wheel. It means we can't move across to defend, not safely, not without chopping him off. So we're going to have to try and hold this around the outside. He's later on the brakes than we are. He comes into the corner, he gets the apex, and unfortunately we've had to give the position up almost as quick as we had achieved it. So unfortunately then for us, we're going to have to settle for 7th position at the moment, but that is more than what we need in order to make it through this race. A little bit more of a gap opening behind us to Diaz, so hopefully this is going to set us fair for the next 15 minutes of racing. We're 5 minutes into this race. It's a 20-minute sprint. Now we've got a bit of breathing space. Let's take a look back at the start then. All the cars pretty much getting through that T1. We nearly got spun around by an Alfa Romeo behind us, but thankfully we didn't make contact. And then as we came out of T1, you can see we get a much better run than the blue and yellow Honda up ahead of us. He squeezed to the right-hand side. We're going to make his life difficult from the left-hand side and manage to get our way past into the braking zone then of the hairpin, and then just look for the Alfa Romeo. He tags the Honda into us, and that could have been a three-way accident. In the end, fortunately, we all got through. If we now look towards the end of the first lap into the start of the second lap, here's the contact at T1 between the two cars up ahead of us, as the guy who's being overtaken just looks to take the apex as normal. He doesn't take account of the fact that there's a car right the way along his inside, and he gets bounced out onto the runoff area. Fast forward one more lap and we are going to mount our own overtake into this corner. We get all the way alongside. The driver behind very sensibly eases off. A little bit of contact there. You see shards of bodywork being sent onto the track as he undercuts us on the exit of the corner, and because he's managed to get a wheel down our inside, there's not a lot I can do really to defend this. I'm going to have to stick to the racing line. That gives him the space down the inside. He's braver on the brakes than we are. We try our own little switchback move, but it doesn't really work out, and we have to settle back into 7th position. Now, I mentioned the scrapping that goes on behind us here. Rather than recut to the live action, I just want to show you how frantic some of the battling was behind us, which actually creates a bit of a cushion for us heading into the middle part of this race. You've got 5 cars essentially fighting over position here. We're tracking the lead car here. We are up the road, so this is not our fight. We're just up ahead of this gaggle of cars as they come through the right-hander. And look at that, they're nearly 4 wide, essentially, on the exit of that corner. Fast forward to the start of the very next lap, and inevitably the contact comes. There's a bit of a bunching together at the next corner, and wow, he gets punted into the car to the right-hand side and he goes around. What then followed was a fantastic battle between the Audi and the Honda as they managed to break away from that pack and are essentially fighting with one another to then start thinking about getting up the road and attacking us. But as long as this scrap was going on, it was buying us time, essentially. You can see visibly the gap has opened up as we disappear off to the left-hand side of the screen there. And they are fighting all the way through the middle part of this track. It's a fantastic battle between the two drivers as they're coming towards the end of the lap. Fast forward another couple of laps and this battle is still raging between the Honda and the Audi, side by side once again into the right-hander. Brilliant, brilliant racing here and really working to our advantage, as you can see us there just in the top of screen. There's about a 3-second gap that we've managed to extend just by virtue of the fact that they're fighting. Contact between the two though. Unfortunately, the Audi just too optimistic to get down the inside of the Honda, and that ultimately costs him. And that was the end of that fight. We rejoin them with just 6 minutes of the live action to go because it's taken that long really for that fight to work itself out, and then the Honda start reeling us in from behind. So now the gap is down to just a second. You can see in our rear view mirror that the car has gotten much bigger. He's closed right in on us and the gap is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. The advantage is with him at the moment. Our paces remain relatively stable in the mid 139s, but it just seems as if he has got more pace behind us, as does the car, the Audi, that is following behind as well. So we're sat in 7th, we need to finish in the top 9. Essentially we just need to bring this drive home, but it looks like we might, as we slide again through the left-hander, really struggling in this part of the circuit. It looks like we might come under pressure from behind to hold on to 7th and potentially 8th position as well, and then we've got a little bit more of a gap back to 10th. So as long as we can maintain that gap, then we should be alright to get a positive result from this race. We come through the final couple of corners once again then towards the end of yet another lap with just 5 minutes left on the race clock, and look at how close behind the car in our rear view mirror is. We're going to come just to a partially defensive line to ward him off down our inside. That's going to give him though better momentum as we're pinched to the apex. It means he can get around us, and down our inside he's going to be fully alongside here onto the back straight, and actually he's going to be clear. The pass is already made. We're going to do our best then to attack into the hairpin. We switch to the inside line with half a view on getting later on the brakes than the car alongside us, but actually he is later on the brakes than us, and we end up taking quite a tight apex there too, and are now under pressure from the Audi as he's ran off course, taking a faster line on the escape road to the left hand side. He's not fully alongside us though, but you can see from the Helicorsa graphic in the centre of the screen he's very, very close by. Now he is fully alongside us. He's got on the brakes later, but we have the high ground on the inside of the corner, and we are able to defend from him and hold on to 8th position. So what has felt like quite a comfortable race for the majority of this session is now feeling anything but comfortable. I know I've still got that little buffer back to 10th place, but I really don't want to give anything further away if I can avoid it. But at the same time, I don't want to give up time battling for position unnecessarily. So it's a really tricky balance to maintain here. I don't want to be within just one position of crashing out of this competition, having come so far into this race, but I don't want to give away more time than I need to overdriving the car in defence to this Audi, when ultimately all we need is to get in that top 9 set of cars. Let's take a look back then at how we just lost that position to the Honda Civic as we come across the start finish line. Then you can see just how close behind he was through the final set of corners. That was always going to put us under big pressure into T1. I try not to take too defensive a line into the corner, just enough to ward him off around the outside, but actually his wide entry allowed him once again, just like the car earlier in the race, to scoot back up our inside. Not a lot I could do about it. My best bet then was to get down the inside into the hairpin ourselves, so we switch back to the other side of the track, but we're just not brave enough on the brakes. That's where we're losing time in this race to these two drivers. They are better on the brakes than we are into some of these corners, and they're making up quite a lot of speed, and they're pretty dangerous on the overtake as well as a result. We rejoin the live action then once again, and we've just got less than 2 minutes left in this race. That's probably going to be 2 racing laps to go as we're coming under big pressure again from the Audi. We've still got that gap back to 10th place, so we've still got a little bit of a buffer, but the pressure is ramping up now as we come down into T1 once again. Later on the brakes behind us, by the looks of things, we get a little bit unbalanced on the apex of the corner, and he's got a better exit than we do, so we're going to be under pressure once again. We do have the opportunity this time though to take the defensive line, so we're coming over to the right hand side of the track to try and take that line. He's going to be around our outside once again. He is later on the brakes than we are, but we will have the apex to defend. Bang! We get a big hit as he just looks to take the corner as normal. I'm assuming he doesn't have a radar or much racecraft, to be honest, in that incident, because we were always going to be on the inside. We couldn't just disappear. Thankfully we both got through the corner nonetheless. We come down into the next braking zone though, and again he's on our outside. We've unfortunately outbraked ourselves and we can't get the car slowed down. There was a tiny bit of contact between the cars which unsettled us as well. We're out onto the gravel and he has managed to get by, and most crucially we've done that thing that I wanted to avoid. We've got suckered into a battle. We've lost a ton of time in that fighting, and look in our rear view mirrors, it's the Alfa Romeo, and we are going to be under pressure with just a lap and a half of this race left to go. Before we see how that pans out, here are the couple of moves then with the Audi as we come into the final stages of this race. I was able to take the defensive line, as I said, but unfortunately we got a big hit on the apex, as I think he assumed he could just swoop into the corner because he was ahead in the braking zone, and that was very nearly a spun around, to be honest. I would have been pretty cross had that happened and taken us out of contention. Here's the very next corner though, coming down again at the braking zone, and unfortunately for us this time we just outbraked ourselves. The contact didn't help us in terms of slowing the car down, but really that was our own mistake that caused us to lose so much time. We rejoin then on the very last lap of this race. There's about less than a second now, probably 3/4 of a second to the car behind, as we're really now trying to hold on to qualification to round 3 of this competition. It was looking so straightforward for so much of this race. As the cars behind us were scrapping, we just haven't been able to kick our pace on through this race. We've held it consistently around the 139.5, but that has not been the pace we need. We needed a few more tenths a lap that we just have not been able to find. We come through into the right-hander then. It's going to be fairly difficult for the Alpha behind us to mount a clean pass through the remaining corners of this lap. Really, the overtaking opportunities are in the first half of the lap. It's all medium speed, swooping corners from here until the end. So as long as I keep things neat and tidy, as long as I can spot the apex, it's going to be very, very challenging for the Alpha to get past. But he is in such close proximity to us now that any mistake, small or big, will potentially let him in, and we'll have thrown away our qualification chances into then the final braking zone really of the lap. We get up on the curb, he's going to run it all the way wide, extend the track to get maximum momentum through the next corner. Surely there must be a slowdown or a penalty of some kind for that, but nevertheless we managed to hold him off. There's only going to be 0.3 of a second between us as we cross the line, but we hold on for a 9th place finish from a 9th place start. But what looked like was going to be a stronger finish for quite a bit of this race fell away a little bit towards the end as we look at the off-board shots of the Alpha running very wide. He's trying everything essentially to force his way through and into the next round, but thankfully we were able to hold him off. That is us into round 3 of this competition, which will take place at the Nürburgring, where the qualification round took place. We are going back to the Nürburgring GP circuit for the next round of this competition. Only 200 drivers remain in the competition. That will get whittled down to 80 in the next round. So there we go. Here's the final classifications. I hope you enjoyed the race. If you did, leave a like, get subscribed, and I will see you on the next one.